You look at your wooden table and all you can see are the scratches. The scuff from a dragged plate, the fine lines from years of use, the mark left by a set of keys tossed down without thinking. It looks tired, damaged, old, and you assume the only fix is to sand the whole thing down and refinish it. A huge, messy, intimidating job, or to just live with it looking worn. Here's what almost nobody realizes. Most scratches on a wooden table can be made to disappear, or nearly so, without sanding at all, often with nothing more than what's already in your kitchen. In Japan, where wood is deeply respected as a living material, and where the philosophy of Matanai makes it feel genuinely wrong to discard or destroy something that can be restored, there's a patient, gentle approach to bringing a scratched table back to life. It's the same spirit as kintsugi, the art of lovingly repairing rather than throwing away. This is how the Japanese make a scratched wooden table look new again, without sanding. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to read your scratches, the right gentle method for each one, and how to protect the table so it stays beautiful for years. Let's get into it. Before you touch your table with anything, you have to understand the single most important step, the one that determines which method to use and whether this will work at all. You have to read the scratch. Not all scratches are the same, and using the wrong method on the wrong scratch is how people make things worse. So look at your table in good, raking light from the side and run a clean fingernail gently across the mark and sort what you have into one of three types. The first type is a surface scratch, one that only affects the finish, the varnish, oil, lacquer, or wax on top, while the wood underneath is completely untouched. These are by far the most common and the easiest to make vanish. The second type is a scratch that is broken through the color, where you can see a paler line because the finish and stain have been scratched away and lighter wood or bare grain is showing through. These need a little color added back. And the third type is a deep scratch or gouge, one your fingernail clearly catches in, where wood has actually been removed and there's a real groove. These need to be filled. Knowing which of the three you're dealing with is everything, because each one has its own gentle, no sanding fix, and matching the method to the scratch is the difference between a table that looks new again and a patch that looks worse than the scratch did. Once you've sorted your scratches, you're ready. And if that already makes sense, hit subscribe, because the methods start with the gentlest, most surprising one of all. Whatever method you use, always start by cleaning the area first, because this matters more than people think. Wipe the scratch and the wood around it with a soft microfiber cloth slightly dampened with warm, mildly soapy water, then buff it dry. Dust and grime sit inside a scratch and make it look darker and more visible than it really is, and sometimes a good cleaning alone makes a fine scratch far less noticeable. More importantly, cleaning lets whatever repair method you use actually absorb and work properly instead of sitting on top of grime. And one rule that applies to every single method in this video. Always test it first on a small, hidden area, the underside of the table or a back corner, to make sure the result matches before you touch the visible surface. With that done, let's start with the gentlest method of all. The first method is the one that surprises everyone, and it's perfect for light surface scratches on lighter and medium-colored wood, the walnut. Yes, the nut. This is probably the most famous natural wood repair trick there is, and it genuinely works through real science. Take a raw, unsalted, unflavored walnut, break it open, and simply rub the meat of the nut firmly along the scratch, going in the direction of the grain. As you rub, the walnut does two things at once. Its natural oils seep into the scratch and darken the exposed lighter wood so it blends with the surrounding color, while the soft nut material itself helps fill the fine scratch. After rubbing it in, press your finger flat over the area and hold it for a moment. The warmth helps the oil absorb, then let it sit for a few minutes and buff with a soft cloth. For light scratches, the kind you can barely feel with a fingernail, the walnut can make them almost disappear before your eyes. It's gentle, it's non-toxic, it costs almost nothing, and it's the perfect place to start if you're nervous, because there's virtually no way it can harm your table. Pecans and even peanuts work on the same principle, and for a larger dull area, you can rub in the oil from natural peanut or almond butter. It feels like magic, but it's just oil and pigment doing exactly what a finish does. The second method conditions the wood and blends scratches at the same time, and it's ideal for oiled and waxed finishes, the olive oil and vinegar blend. This is a step up from the walnut for surface scratches and dull patches, and it works beautifully because each ingredient plays a role. Mix 2 parts olive oil with 1 part white vinegar in a small bowl. The oil penetrates the wood, swells the scratched fibers, and fills and softens the scratch, while the vinegar gently cleans dust out of the groove and lightly stains the wood to blend the mark. Dip a soft cloth in the mixture and rub it along the scratch in the direction of the grain, then work in gentle circles around it to blend it into the surrounding surface. Let the oil soak in for several hours or even overnight, then buff dry with a clean cloth. On oiled and waxed finishes, this method often makes scratches vanish entirely because you're essentially reconditioning the finish itself. One honest caveat, and it matters: on hard, heavily lacquered or polyurethane surfaces, the oil can't penetrate the tough film, so this method works far less well there. It's really at its best on natural, oiled, and waxed wood. Know your finish, and you'll know whether this is your method. By the way, all of this is part of one bigger system. If you want the complete Japanese method, with every trick like this for a home where things are cared for and made to last, the full book is linked in the description of this video and on the channel. It's there if you want it. The third method adds color back for scratches that have broken through to lighter wood, using something you probably brewed this morning: strong coffee or black tea. When a scratch has removed the stain and color, and you can see a pale line of exposed wood underneath, especially on darker stained furniture, the fix is to color that bare wood back to match. Both coffee and black tea contain natural tannins and dark pigments that stain wood. For darker wood, make a thick paste from instant coffee granules and a tiny bit of hot water, and dab it into the scratch, letting it stain the exposed fibers, then wipe away the excess and dry the surface. For a slightly lighter tone, a strong brew of black tea applied with a cotton swab does the same job, and you can build the color up gradually, applying more for a darker result until it matches. The key with both is control. Apply it only to the scratch itself. Build the color slowly and wipe away excess, and crucially, don't let the liquid pool or sit on the wood for long, because water sitting on wood can cause its own stains or even warp it. Used carefully, coffee and tea blend that pale scratch line right back into the color of the wood around it. The fourth method is for when you need reliable, repeatable color, and it's faster and more controllable than the kitchen methods: a touch-up marker and a wax fill stick matched to your wood. These inexpensive tools, sold in furniture repair kits, are made exactly for this and require no sanding at all. For a scratch that has broken the color but isn't deep, use a color-matched furniture touch-up marker. Color into the scratch following its direction, and wipe any excess off the surrounding surface with a dry cloth. A great tip is to start with a marker slightly lighter than your wood and build up to darker in steps, because it's easy to go darker and impossible to go lighter, and blending a couple of shades gets a truer match. For a deeper groove, the kind your fingernail catches in, this is where the wax fill stick comes in. Rub the matching wax stick firmly into the scratch until it's slightly overfilled, then use a plastic scraper or the edge of an old card to remove the excess so the wax sits flush and level with the surrounding surface. The wax fills the gouge and the color blends it in, all without a speck of sandpaper. For deep scratches, this fill method is what actually levels the damage, and it's the no-sand answer to a groove that the oils and markers can only color but not fill. Now, there's a special case worth knowing, because it's a genuinely satisfying trick, but it comes with an important warning: dents, as opposed to scratches. A dent is where the wood has been crushed and compressed inward, without the surface being cut, and for these, steam can work real magic, because heat and moisture make the crushed wood fibers swell back up to their original shape. The method: lay a clean, damp white cloth over the dent, and press a hot iron onto the cloth, moving it in small circles for a short time, which drives steam into the wood and lifts the compressed fibers. But here's the critical, honest warning, and please take it seriously. This steam trick is really for bare or unfinished wood and genuine dents. On a finished, lacquered, or veneered table, Heat and moisture can cloud or damage the finish, loosen veneer, or even open glued joints, so it's risky on most modern finished furniture. If your table has a hard finish or is veneered, or if it's valuable, don't steam it without knowing what you're doing. And always test on a hidden spot first. Used on the right piece, though, watching a dent rise back up out of the wood is one of the most satisfying repairs there is. Before the last part, if you're finding this useful, take a second to subscribe, because prevention is what keeps your table looking new for good. There's one more finishing touch that ties every method together and often makes the biggest visible difference. After any repair, restore, and even out the protective finish over the whole surface. Once you've treated the individual scratches, the area you worked on can look slightly different in sheen from the rest of the table. The fix is to go over the entire tabletop with a suitable finish for your wood, a wood-specific polish, a furniture wax, or a maintenance oil made for your finish, buffing it in along the direction of the grain. This does several things at once. It blends the repaired spots into the surrounding surface so they don't stand out. It restores an even sheen across the whole table, and it lays down a fresh protective layer that guards against the next scratch. A table that's been spot repaired and then given an even coat of finish over the whole top genuinely looks renewed, not patched. This final step is the one people skip, and it's often what separates a repair that's invisible from one you can still spot. Now comes the part that matters more than any repair, the part that keeps your table looking new so you rarely have to fix anything again. Prevention. Every scratch has a cause, and the gentle Japanese respect for wood is really about protecting it before damage happens, so it lasts for generations. And these habits are simple. First, use coasters, placemats, and felt pads. Put coasters under drinks and placemats under plates, so nothing is dragged directly across the bare finish. And stick felt pads under anything that sits on the table, and under the legs of chairs and objects, so they glide instead of scratch. Second, and this surprises people, dust regularly with a soft cloth, because dust particles are abrasive, and every time something slides across a dusty table, those particles act like fine sandpaper scratching the finish, so keeping the surface dust-free genuinely prevents scratches. Third, clean gently and never with harsh or abrasive cleaners or scrubbing pads, which dull and scratch the finish, and wipe up spills promptly so moisture never sits on the wood. Fourth, protect the table from direct sunlight, because UV light dries out and degrades the finish over time, making it brittle and far more prone to scratching and cracking, so use a curtain or reposition the table if it bakes in the sun. And fifth, keep up the finish, polishing or re-oiling periodically to maintain that protective layer, because a well-maintained finish is what takes the scratches so the wood underneath doesn't have to. Care for the surface consistently, and the scratches simply stop happening. Now, this is where this channel is always honest with you, because you deserve to know what these methods truly can and can't do. First, understand what's really happening. These no-sanding methods disguise, blend, fill, and recolor scratches, and on light and moderate damage, they can make scratches genuinely disappear or become almost invisible. But they conceal and fill. They don't rebuild missing wood from nothing. So on very deep gouges, the fill will level it, but the repair may still be faintly visible at certain angles, and that's the realistic outcome. Second, match the method to your finish, because it matters. The oil and vinegar method shines on oiled and waxed wood, but struggles on hard lacquer. And the steam trick is for bare wood and dents, not finished or veneered surfaces. Third, a genuine word of caution rooted in real advice. Be careful applying random kitchen oils to a fine or valuable finish, because oils that aren't made to cure as a furniture finish can stay slightly greasy and collect dust over time. So for a truly valuable piece, an antique or a high-gloss finish, use products actually made for wood, or consult a furniture restorer rather than experimenting. And fourth, know when it's beyond a home fix. If the damage crosses veneer, exposes a large area of bare wood, or affects a valuable antique, that's a job for a specialist, not a walnut. The honest bottom line is that the large majority of everyday scratches, the scuffs, the fine lines, the shallow marks, can be made to vanish, or nearly so, with these gentle methods. And knowing the limits is what keeps you from turning a small mark into a bigger problem. And a quick but important word on safety. Never mix cleaning products, and in particular, never mix vinegar with bleach or ammonia, which releases toxic gases. The vinegar here is only ever combined with oil. When using an iron for the steam method, take normal care with the hot iron and never leave it resting in one spot, both to avoid burns and to avoid scorching the wood. Work in a ventilated space and keep markers, wax sticks, oils, and any repair products safely stored away from children and pets. And note that walnut and other nut oils could be a concern in a home with a serious nut allergy, so choose a different method if that applies to you. Test everything on a hidden spot first. Respect those, and every method here is safe and gentle. So let's bring the whole approach together, because it's genuinely simple. First, read your scratch in good light. Is it a surface scratch in the finish, a scratch that's broken the color, or a deep gouge you can feel? Clean the area and test any method on a hidden spot first. For light surface scratches, rub in a walnut, or use the olive oil and vinegar blend on oiled and waxed wood. For scratches that show pale bare wood, add color back with coffee, tea, or a touch-up marker, building the shade up gradually. For deep gouges, fill them level with a matching wax fill stick, no sanding needed. Steam can lift true dents in bare wood, carefully. Then restore an even finish over the whole surface to blend it all in, and, most importantly, prevent future damage with coasters and felt pads, regular, gentle dusting, protection from sun, and a well-kept finish. Do that, and a scratched, tired table comes back looking new again, without sanding, without refinishing, and without replacing a thing. And if you want the complete Japanese method, with every trick like this for a home where things are cared for and made to last a lifetime, the full book is linked in the description of this video and on the channel. And if this brought your table back to life, wait until you see what the Japanese method does with old, dull, cloudy wood furniture that's lost all its shine, the dressers, cabinets, and chairs that look lifeless, and how to restore their deep, warm glow without refinishing. In the next video, you'll see how to make tired wood gleam like new again. See you in the next one.